Hi there, everyone. I'm RazManager, or Raz for short, or Anders Reiberg in real world. I'm not a YouTuber yet. Need to get a proper camera and a mic, but yeah, it's me. Very welcome to my first official presentation of my RazManager RMS for slot cars, intended to be used at big events for analog races or auction races and possibly Galactic Sport digital races as well. Slot cars, well, it can mean a lot of different people. It can be something you run at home with the Christmas present you bought. It can be something that you build a big slot car track at home and model it beautifully, like in this photo here. It can also be that you maybe attend one of these type of big events where well, this is an event I've not been to myself, but we can see that we have three in total, 8-lane tracks, 24 drivers driving at the same time. We can see a lot of flags. It's obviously an international race, of course, very organized. A lot of people doing a lot of preparations, traveling from a lot of different places to get there, spending a lot of money. But it's really like a big, let's say, real race with some exceptions. And that is maybe then that, well, the races, they race like they're racing real race cars, but there's not much feedback to them while they're driving. They can maybe hear a speaker, but not really have a control of where they maybe are in the race and how fast they're going and how much they are behind someone else. When you look at race data later on, you maybe see your position, but don't really have the details on how you performed during the race itself. We have another event, also then very organized. I suppose this is in Spain somewhere. It's an auction race, digital racing. These races are typically then, I don't know if this particular one is, but typically team races where also then people travel, do a lot of team preparations, and it's also then very much like a, let's say, real Formula One race, the same type of atmosphere. Here's another view of the same race where we see the race manager or race director looking at the screen and controlling the race. But we can also see here that the racers, well, they might not know that much of what's going on. If they're lucky, well, they might have some teammate which relaying information to them through walkie-talkie type of applications, Discord and similar. And those teammates might do some sort of analysis and tactics by looking at some screen somewhere, but a little bit hard to maybe do that as you would do in a real Formula One race. That's sort of the main difference there. Otherwise, the atmosphere is pretty much the same. It's an intense environment. Here we have actually my home club. This is a club called Go69 in Gothenburg, Sweden. We have a large wooden track there, mainly running then 124 scale production, Eurosport and similar cars. Some scale up to 124 races as well. This is a typical view of such a club. Yes, you do have some screens on a little bit here and there, and you might then have a chance when there's a track called to look at your race statistics, but otherwise you're a bit hard to know what's going on during a race. There might be a speaker telling you something, and yeah, but it's a little bit hard to keep up. And therefore, when race in this case, a qualifying is over, people gather around the screen and to see the results. You can see people taking photo of the same screens when they want to maybe publish this on social media afterwards and talk about it in different chats. And here's a more close-up of this. It's yeah, widely used RMS program, very functional. Everything might be a little bit outdated when it comes to the view and looks of it, and you can see that the say equipment is even more outdated. They're up in the On the roof there, we even see some, not HDMI cables, but VGA cables connecting the different screens to the Raze PC. So this is something I want to change, how we work with all these things, and why then build an RMS in the first place? Well, I, as a child, and have a tough childhood, yeah, and we put together a lot of tracks in neighborhood, made big tournaments with our selected tracks, built 25 meters long 4-lane tracks, but we never had any lap counting system. We needed to count the things manually, so I always wanted to do something about that. I did, however, race against Sweden's maybe still successful Formula One driver, Ronnie Peterson, at the end of the 70s when he was doing promotion for Electric. So I always had a passion for slot car racing, and I wanted to have this lap counting system. Another, of course, thing is that it's fun to contribute to the slot car hobby. I do something, people do other things, we all get the hobby to grow together. But I also then want to, let's say, radically change the way we look at these, in particular larger events, and change experience for drivers and teams and audience that might be there at the event, or might watching the event at home, or want to analyze the races after the event itself. So changing the view a little bit from on the race director, race manager controlling everything to putting the control much into the hands of the users. Another reason for doing all this is because I'm working as a IT architect and developer, and I need to sharpen my skills there. And slot car hobby and building a RMS for that is one way of finding a lot of problems inside there and sharpening my skills and being a better architect and developer. And by that, then use this RMS and that I'm building and market myself by arranging fun company events. That's one big part of all this. So, which is then, let's say, the problem I'm trying to solve? This is how things typically look today. We can see that we, in the middle here, center everything, we have typically a PC, a Windows PC, running some software, and everything is centered around that PC and that software. There's a race manager controlling the race, starting, stopping, and doing things like that. You might, and typically then a track connected through a track interface directly to the PC itself. You might then have an HDMI splitter, or as we saw in the earlier in the picture, we then saw an VGA splitter where other drivers and teams at the event itself can see a little bit of information on those monitors. But everything here that we're seeing, that it goes, except in the here, we but go and here, of course, but all the information goes from the PC out to those that are attending the race. They cannot do anything with information. They can just look at the screens. And it's becoming more and more popular that people stream those events through, for example, YouTube, and but you can view the race, but you cannot, of course, not do anything. And as this is then handled everything, including the streaming of this PC, it needs to be pretty stable. If some part of this crashes, for example, the track interface, the logic, the use interface, or something else, you need to start the PC and start the race. So, how do I intend to change this? It looks complex first, but let's break it down. It's not as complex as it looks at first. So the core RMS, the RazManager RMS that I'm building, is something I installed on some internet servers. You can look at this as being an multiplayer online game. So this is where the core RMS logic is running. And you can access that from the site where you run a race. And you can then not only have maybe one race manager, you can have several of those. You maybe have one main one, as we know today, which can then use a device to control the race. It can be any device. It doesn't need to be a Windows device. It can be even a tablet if you want to walk around doing it. Maybe not, but you can do that. And there might, let's say, indirectly be more race managers as well. Say you have someone actually managing pit stops, and you can indirectly say that if you would have marshals as an indirect race manager, because they might want to impose penalties, report those, and might want to have a device where they can report that something happened. So there's more collaboration by different peoples, not typically only by having one PC doing everything. You can then have, if you look at the track interface, it can, of course, be connected to one of those things. It can do, but it can be separate as well, meaning that you place the equipment and connect the equipment track to some equipment and report timing and everything of that in a separate device. When it comes to, for example, auction, that might actually be important, because then you can have the so-called dongle connected and placed somewhere near the drivers. It doesn't need to be placed where the race manager and his or her PC is located. You can, of course, do as you do today, have some HDMI splitter and put the information on monitors for other drivers and teams to look at. You can do that if you still want to do it. You can connect some other gadgets and equipments as well. You can have then at the site also additional monitors, which doesn't need to be connected to and show the same information as a race manager see, but these can be screens that hang in a bit everywhere. You can think of this as, let's say, fast food hamburger restaurant, an airport or everything, where a lot of screens showing different information. And there might be playlists that don't see the same screen, same view every time, but it's actually rotating between different information what's seeing. And that can be driven by a simple Raspberry Pi, which don't require an expensive PC to show that information. And then when we come to the driver themselves, well, they of course driving, but they could then also then have a mobile app running on their own phone. You may not typically have the time to look at the phone screen itself. That's you may have to do time to do that during a pit stop or a very long straight. But otherwise, you can use an earpiece and have lap times and everything presented to you that way, so you can concentrate on the race, but still get some information and gaps to other drivers and stuff like that by hearing it. And without some team members maybe needing to relay that information to you. You can also then, as a team, have sit down and doing real-time race analysis, doing tactics, understanding where you are in race. Are we slowing down? Maybe we should change drivers, should switch to new tires or whatever. More like that you would do in a real race. Team A can do that on their own devices. Team B can do that on their own devices. Might also be another team, or team A or team B, of course, that doing post-race analysis at home after the race to see what actually happened and what they can learn from that. Might be also someone that want to present the race, doing some storytelling based on what happened in race. And we often hear people saying, okay, I was this and this much behind, but I managed to get by and get into first position during the last lap. And there you will actually see the data that backs that up. And other external viewers that are interested in the race when it happened afterwards, and you can stream it to YouTube as well, but in a different way. We will look at that, but you can actually overlay the race standings as you can see on, similar to what you can do on a television broadcast. So, but okay, even if this looks complex, it isn't, because you install software and then you don't need to think much about it. You don't need all this that we're seeing in the screen here. You can just race, have one PC here and connect the track directly to it as you would normally do, and you can actually do that cheaper instead of needing a big PC for that. It can be a simple Linux device and Raspberry Pi, so it can be quite simple, but it can also be something that you want to connect a lot of the devices then for let's say larger events. So let's try to look on how this looks. This is what you then will see. Then maybe as a user, not needing to be the race director. So try when you watch this and think of, yeah, this is not a real race director you are right now. You're someone that is attending a race or may watch this at home or whatever. So if you logged in, as some are right now, you can see some maybe tracks that you can manage, but you will then also see race events that maybe yourself or someone else has published. Either those races are something that everyone can see, or you have given restricted access to this and you need to enter code to be able to see it. Let's go into this demo event, and we can see that we, for this event, only have one race, and in this race we only have one heat. So this is then how the leaderboard looks like. In this case, I'm actually logged in, so this is a little bit like a race director will see it, because we see some buttons here at the end here. Those will not be shown if there's a user without those permissions. They'll just disappear. But let's start then race. Before we do that, let's add some sound. And I want to follow this guy called Anders. If you're logged in and part of the race, you will be pre-selected. And let's turn on the sound as well. And then let's start the race. So the sound that you will hear is not, let's say, the system sound that everybody hear. Is more that a sound that you will hear as whatever person that you're following. So here we can see.
You set the new overall fastest lap 7.61.
I then Anders apparently got into the lead here. This is a simulated race.
7.98.
Simulated race where just random lap times.
8.16.
We can see that it also is a fuel race. This will work even in analog or in digital.
You set the new overall fastest lap 7.44.
And you can see the remaining you have of the fuel and for
7.6.
And for many laps it actually lasts before you are out of fuel.
You set the new overall fastest lap 7.4.
Yep. Let's turn off the sound so we don't get disturbed by that. And if you then have, this is a Windows PC showing full screen. If you were to see this in use this on a mobile phone, it will be a little bit different. So let's try to change the screen size and see how that will look. See if this works. So the screen here will adapt to the change the content depending on the size that you have. And then we have, this is a racer leaderboard. Let's look at another view, a driver board instead. So this is then showing the 8 races that we have here, and it's showing this in a same position all the time, so you can more easily find yourself. For example, me here, I can always look at this place where I'm driving, and I can see which position I have. Number 1 right now, driven for 16 laps, have 42 laps left before I need to pit and refuel. And then we have then we have a little bit more information here. Let's try to enlarge this a little bit because it's a little bit harder maybe sometimes to see when the lot of information here at the same time. Let's go into and adjusting that screen. Here we can adapt the leaderboard. We can also then adapt the driver board. Let's just show some of the drivers here to make this a little smaller. And let's go back to the driver board. Then we're seeing, this should be a little bit larger, that we have the same information we saw before. This one here is a little bit special because it shows the gap between yourself, and in this case, and those people that are nearest to you. People that are not near, they're not shown here. So you can see when those races here that are in 3rd and 4th place, they got to be closer. Yeah, they get a part of this view as well. And you can see that, yeah, they're closing in now, and maybe that one here, Hamdi, will pass me soon. And if we want to show maybe only one of those drivers, this is maybe then the view you want to look at. Okay, so this is how the
9.91.
This is how the screen may look on if you select the driver board on a mobile phone. You can maybe then focus a little bit on your information
9.71.
and have sound that tells you the latest, your latest lap time. Let's turn that off. So if you then are a team member or want to do this at home, you may want to do a little bit more analyzing instead. Let's look at the positions. This is, let's say, a traditional position chart where you can see the changes. You can, of course, can zoom in a little bit if you want to do that. There we have it. And we can see, yeah, we do have different positions here, but it's a little bit hard to understand if this actually is a close race or not. Maybe there's a close race here because we are changing some positions here, but we don't know really if the green one here, Kevin, is running much more faster than the other ones in the game here. So let's look at the gaps. So we can see here, this is a chart showing right now the current leader, which is Kevin, and we can see how far the other drivers are from that, far they're behind in this case. So we can see at least that Diana here is closing up, and that, yeah, for example, Hamdi here is having a steady pace towards the other drivers here. Let's look at this from, for example, from Hamdi's view instead. So we can see that Hamdi is a little bit in the middle here. Yeah, if I were Hamdi, I can see that the gap towards, for example, Kevin here is closing in. So let's look then a little bit on the lap times. This is a simulated race, so the lap times look maybe a little bit weird. But we can, for example, exclude some of the drivers here. Let's look at more or less only, let's see here, Vinay And Kevin and Diana, they're closing, they're pretty close, and you can see then if you work example some of the drivers here that you're doing a bit better lap times than your nearest competitors. We also have something called stint analysis. That is maybe two ways of using that. Whether this is useful is if you have your own team race, you want to compare different stints between different drivers maybe or parts of the race and do some detailed analysis of that. This is not a team race or not an endurance race, so I'm not added that to this specific race here. It can be also useful to have a stint when you are, even if you're a single driver and you're doing practice and you want to compare different setups of your car. Maybe you're running with weight somewhere in a car, doing a couple of laps. You can see those laps. Then you change the weight to something else, and you want to compare that with the first stint you did. And then we have something called leaderboard stream. This will look a little bit different in when this is finished. Then you will have your camera. This is just a still picture, but it's meant to be used in a way that you can overlay the race standings here like you can in a typical broadcast and use that when you stream a real race. Okay, enough of the demo. At this point, let's sum up some things here. And there are some technical challenges, of course, with building something like this. I need to have clients for Windows, Mac OS, Linux, iOS, and Android. And using something called Flutter for the client part itself. I need to, because I'm not a designer, I need to rely on some standards for that. So I get a pretty user interface. It's using something called Material IO for that. Maybe most important, the so-called backend, the things are running on the inter-service servers. It needs to be very, very concurrent and distributed, and it needs to be lightning fast. And it also needs to be updated at any time. So when you're running race, you don't really notice that. That might feel at first a little bit, well, risky. But this is something that is my profession, and you are using services all over the world every day, which is updated without you noticing it. So this is what this will do instead. Here are some techniques I'm using for that. It needs to use very fast and low volume real-time communication, and that's something that happens to be called gRPC and protobuf for that, not using JSON because that is a little bit consumes a little bit too much data. And every updates, once you install it, it will be automatically updated for it to be its use. Otherwise, you will need to download things and stuff like that all the time. It wouldn't work in real practice. Though, for example, sensitive parts like software runs and communicates through track, those updates are not there during, for example, a race. This is something that I then, as a professional IT architect and developer, can use in different other situations, multiplayer online games, digital signage, public transportation, and a few other things. Self-learning, there's a recent, see if this works, YouTube video on Slot Forum.
On the front row, all
McLaren.
Which
Bringing up the rear is the
has looked strong all day, so I'm tipping the Merc for the win.
added some
I'm on the Corvette.
AI comments.
Lights out and they are off. The Corvette has bolted, but the AMG is right on the rear bumper of the Golf McLaren.
The Corvette.
Even if that's a sort of fake, it's actually something that I actually try to do in real. See if I can get that going. I think that would be fun. And get back to the presentation itself. There we have it. Okay, so let's sum it up. which are then the target users? Well, that's not really for race organizers that if you really don't want to use an internet connection, might be very good reasons for that, of course. If you have something, have a club somewhere and you have a few friends that gather there somewhere, a few club members, and you just happy with it, do when it's more social thing, you don't have an interconnection, you have no intention to do it, this is not for that. But this is a valid thing to of course not wanting that. So that's perfectly fine. And of course, if you're happy what you currently do, right? Don't change anything. This if this doesn't bring any value for it, there's no need to change at all. Or if you want to replace whatever you're doing with something similar, but using the same type of, let's say, setup where you change one Windows program with another one, and that's maybe what you want to do, and that's, let's say, perfectly valid as well. This is more 90% or a lot more than that will fall into that category. So I'm the odd one here, not anyone that's using that type of system. But it doesn't make any sense for me to build such a system because that's what I'm not doing at work. And if you want to use a lot of advanced digital simulations, for example, weathers and braking and stuff like that, it's maybe not the right choice to do what I'm doing here. It needs to, for my view, is that simulations that need to, let's say, add a clear strategic value, and it needs to be easy to understand in those large events. And maybe for small races this works good, but not maybe for the races that I mainly targeting. So things that I'm targeting are, let's say, mid-size, large slot car events, larger ones. This is what I think where this suits best. And particularly then also then if you're using team-related events when you want to do some team tactics during the race. There's a lot of different graphs and data for that. If you want to stream an event, yeah, this is also then maybe a good choice. And then, of course, if you want to extend experience for those out there while the event takes place, not just running around, running a big event and having some monitors here or there, but let's say go add an extra dimension to the race and make it even more emulate a real race. Or if you want to do post-race analysis afterwards, do some storytelling with that. This is maybe then a good choice. If you want to handle both analog and digital races, yeah, this might also be a good choice then. So the platforms, if you look a little bit more detail that I'm tend to support, are analog races, of course. How do you connect the track to that? Maybe then through GPIO with the pins on a Raspberry Pi. That will be the most straightforward thing. Possibly there will be some support for other RMS-specific hardware as well, so you can easily connect your existing track to this if you want to change. Oxygen, of course, that is something that's well suited to large events. Oxygen races, they provide a pretty unique experience, I would say. Something that's nothing else that is like that. Good race control, intense races, team races that really looks like they're real races. Something very special. Might be possible though that I support collective sport digital races because while this needs to grow somewhere, maybe not that it's great to go towards the big races directly. Maybe this needs to grow somewhere else. For example, for sports digital races, well, those races are pretty small. Well, for example, those races only support six cars. But let's say if we would turn that into team events, six teams, you can have a lot more races during races, and that might actually be one way to go. And then added some custom SSD sensors for that, so you can add pit entries and other things for that. Talk about that another time maybe. And by supporting a set of platforms, it's also then possible to do some combinations of those platforms as well. For example, by having analog cars controlled by oxygen. You can have an auto race, but you may want to add fuel/energy management using oxygen controllers. Or, for example, a little bit other way around, if you have custom SSD sensors and you want to add more sensors, maybe you want to have speed traps or special entries where you go into and collect more energy. Let's say if you want to emulate an Formula E type of race where you can go into a special section and then get a boost and then deploy that boost. You would need to have some extra sensors for that. Might be a good combination with oxygen. We'll see. So, lot of stuff there covered. Won't go any further as right now. Hopefully you found this interesting. If so, then please add some comments on Stock Forum where you find this. Thank you very much.